This program is a monthly speaker series that brings media leaders, influencers, and newsmakers to the Newhouse School for candid and insightful conversations with students and other guests. With a special emphasis on current trends and challenges, the series helps students keep apace of a quickly changing communications industry and provides them with a connection to the professions they will eventually lead. The series also offers valuable networking and learning opportunities as guests visit classrooms or student organizations in addition to participating in this public conversation. The series is supported by the Hearst Speakers Fund, and tonight we welcome Shanti Das, class of 1993. After graduating from the Newhouse School with a television, radio, and film degree, Shanti worked in the entertainment business for over 25 years. Her music industry career, from intern to executive vice president, included positions at Capitol Records, LaFace Records, Columbia Records, Sony Urban Music, and Universal Motown, where she worked directly with some of music's top talent like Outkast, Usher, Prince, TLC, Toni Braxton, and more. Shanti has suffered from depression and anxiety over the years and has also experienced loved ones affected with mental health disorders. As a result of her extensive community work and her personal experiences, she has established her own nonprofit, Silence the Shame, to empower and educate communities on mental health and wellness. Since 2016, Silence the Shame has worked to eliminate mental health stigma, reduce health disparities, and lower suicide rates among vulnerable populations. The foundation curates community conversations, offers wellness trainings, creates content, and broadens awareness around mental health and wellness. In 2019, Silence the Shame was honored by the American Psychiatric Association Foundation for advancing minority mental health. Tonight, Shanti will be joined in conversation with Rawiya Kameir, Assistant Professor of Magazine, News, and Digital Journalism, and advising faculty for the Goldring Arts, Journalism, and Communications program. This will be a powerful conversation, no doubt, about navigating mental wellness in entertainment and entrepreneurship. So now I'll turn it over to Rawiya and her guest, Shanti Das.
Thank you. Hi everyone, it's nice to see so many of you here. I feel like at this point in the year, this point in the semester, we all sort of start to hit a wall. And so I think there couldn't possibly be a better time to be having this conversation with you, Shanti. I'm also personally honored to be here. I'm a fan of so much of the work that you've done. I actually don't think I would have ended up pursuing the career I did had it not been for the artists that you personally worked on.
Thank you.
So I can tell you all about that later. For all of you in the audience, I just want to say, first of all, that we're going to talk about some pretty real stuff. It's going to be important, but it's also going to be a little tough. So if you need to step out or whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, please feel free to do that at any point.
Well, I just want to say it's an honor to be back on campus. I love Syracuse. I bleed orange, like all of you do. Life hasn't always been easy for me, but it's been great. It's been fulfilling in so many ways, and it's just really cool to be back here now talking about something that is so personal for me, and I've been able to pivot and come back around to entertainment, so it truly is a full circle moment. So thank you for having me, and give yourselves a round of applause for being here today.
So I want to start with something maybe a little bit out of left field, but I do think it's relevant, so if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
Do you know why you named Shanti, or do you have a connection with that name?
So my dad actually named me Shanti. It's really interesting. So my dad was South Asian. He was from Calcutta in India. My mom was African American, and my dad named all of us. And so the name means peace. And it's really interesting that you asked that, because I didn't understand the significance of my name and all that I had gone through. And I think it's important to add that my father died by suicide when I was 7 months old. So it really is kind of a full circle moment for me to be doing what I'm doing and kind of really owning what my name means and being able to be present and being able to protect my own mental health and wellness now.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know if he knew what was happening and gave me this really powerful thing that I could come back and lean on at some point.
It's such a gift, right? It's also,
it really is.
It's also part of your identity.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep.
So we're going to fast forward from being named and the loss of your father when you were 7 months old to a little bit later on in your life, you moved from Atlanta, where you grew up, to Syracuse, to Newhouse, and the TRS student. What was that transition like? It must have been, in addition to just sort of coming to college, leaving Atlanta and moving to the Northeast must have been.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta, it was interesting because after my dad died, we actually, because I told you my mom was African American, so we grew up in African American culture. And so I wasn't exposed, to other communities and populations growing up in Atlanta, and I really wanted to leave because I look at college as like a microcosm of the real world. So I was like, I want to meet new people and meet people from various backgrounds. I will say the weather was culture shock for me. I had 8:30 classes, so I felt like I was in a Tylenol Cold commercial. Like, why would I look out the window at Haven Hall and see like a blizzard and still have to go to class? So that was tough for me, but other than that, it was great. I actually went to a summer program. I think they called it summer college. I don't know if they still have it, but I went to summer college the summer before my senior year. And I went back senior year, like, I'm going to Syracuse. I had a sweatshirt, and I think I wore it like every week, and I was excited.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember what the conversations were like, either on campus or in the culture about mental health at that time?
There weren't any conversations. I mean, if people had bad days, they would just have bad days. But even the word mental health wasn't really used. And we're talking, and y'all can call me Auntie Shanti because I know I'm in the room. We're talking almost 30 years ago. So we didn't use any of the vocabulary that we're using right now as it relates to emotional health and wellness. And so it was, if there was someone that was exhibiting signs or symptoms that were unfamiliar, we would use that C word. Oh, she's crazy, or he's crazy, or I'm just having a terrible day, not knowing that if we had proper ways of coping, that we could get through those days and it wouldn't necessarily lead to prolonged stress or anxiety, which could lead to other things. So no, there was no mention of the conversation. I remember going to, I guess it was the clinic right here, but never knew to talk about a therapist or even try to find a counseling center. It was never really, brought to my attention. And I didn't have a lot of days where I felt like I was suffering from depression during my SU days. It really came more so once I got into the entertainment industry. But even still back then, it wasn't really a part of our everyday vernacular.
Yeah, and I imagine there was also a certain amount of stigmatizing and, really choice.
Yeah, it was still very taboo.
Yeah.
I think amongst, most populations in our society.
Yeah. So you left here and you went on to, as described it, a career that spanned from intern to executive. But you had a couple internships while you were a student here, and you graduated. You went off to work in the industry. And we think of that time of a person's life, being in their early 20s, being especially carefree, etc. But it's also an incredibly anxiety-ridden time, right? It's also a time where you can be faced against the uncertainty of what your life is going to look like. So I wonder what things were like during those early days of your life.
So the early days were actually really good for me. Once I graduated, I interned at Sony Music, and then 4 months later, I got hired at LaFace Records as a promotions director. And the very first record I worked was Play As Ball, and then I hit the road with Tony Braxton, which was really cool. So I worked for a smaller boutique label, and I was having a conversation with a young lady, Brooke. I don't know if she's here now, but she's a student at Newhouse. We were talking about what it was like working for smaller companies. So it was more like family oriented, and we worked long days, but we were very supportive of one another. I think the shift started for me from an emotional health and wellness perspective when I moved to New York City. So the company was sold in 2000, and L.A. Reid, who was the founder of LaFace Records, replaced Clyde Davis at Arista Records. And so I moved up to New York City, and I guess I was about late 20s, maybe around 30. And it was my first time being in a more corporate environment. And so I had a boss that was like yelling all the time. He was very condescending to me. We hear the stories of misogyny and things that happen sometimes in the entertainment industry, and unfortunately, some of those stories, are true. And so it was just a little bit of a toxic situation for me, and I didn't know how to handle all of that. And I remember being at LaGuardia. Anybody from New York City? I remember being at LaGuardia one day, and y'all, I just started crying like a baby. I don't care who saw me. I just had to let those emotions out. And I was headed to Miami for a shoot for MTV for one of our artists, Babyface, who was actually, even though he was my former boss, he was signed to Ariston. And I remember being on the phone with my sister, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I said, this is something I worked so hard for my entire life. I was getting overlooked for the vice president position. It was just one thing after another. And I had an emotional breakdown at the airport. And my sister was like, you don't have to do this. You can come back home and we'll figure it out. And I'm like, yeah, but there are no other record companies in Atlanta. I either have to move to LA or New York. It was really frustrating and stressful. Excuse me. So later on that night, I went home, and my boyfriend at the time was staying at my place, as he always did. And I said to him, I said, maybe, I don't know if this is for me. Maybe I should just kill myself. Yeah, that was scary, right? Elephant in the room. And he thought, well, wait a minute. This is something I've never heard you say before. I have to take this seriously. I think a lot of times we'll hear people in society kind of throw those words out, oh, I should just kill myself. And sometimes they're actually pretending. But when you hear someone say that, you really have to take it seriously. And so he convinced me to call my sister back, who was kind of like the rock of our family. And she said, you need to go to therapy. She said, you never dealt with dad's suicide and the trauma. Now that you're dealing with your own level of trauma, you're peeling back the onion, right? And those layers of generational trauma that existed within our family. She said, you gotta go talk to somebody. So I did that. I went to therapy for about 2 or 3 months in New York City. And I felt like it was better. And I think because I marketed the careers of some pretty high profile artists, I was like, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. 3 months, one and done kind of thing. That wasn't necessarily the case, but that is kind of like the first time that I really seriously dealt with my own struggles.
There is, I did work in the music industry, but I was adjacent as a journalist who was covering music for a long time. And there's a certain kind of pressure that exists in that particular industry that is also really easy to disguise under its glamours. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you experienced that being a unique sort of part of the difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is, and I'm all for working hard. And I like to travel a lot. It's funny, when I go to Europe, some of my friends in Switzerland or London will say, oh gosh, you Americans, you just live to work. Over here, we work to live. We actually take vacations. We spend time with our loved ones and family and friends. And so they were right though, because I would work 18, 20-hour days sometimes. And it was exhausting. It was mentally exhausting. It was physically exhausting. And it just got to a point where I wasn't taking care of myself. Self-care wasn't a thing either. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't seen in every commercial. It wasn't marketed in your face, And so we worked extremely long hours. Also with me being a female, and working in, I worked in hip hop, I worked with artists in R&B on the pop side, but still the music industry is and was very social, right? And so we would go from the office to a showcase, to the club, back to the studio, sometimes to dinner at 11 o'clock at night, all kinds of crazy stuff. And sometimes people didn't understand what the word boundaries meant. And so there were no boundaries established, right? And then I also had to deal with guys trying to talk to me and, whatever your person of choice is, it still can be just a lot of people coming at you, whether it's males or females or whatever. And that made me uncomfortable. So, I kind of started wearing baggy clothes. I guess I still wear baggy clothes now to kind of, I was diverting the attention so I wouldn't have to deal with all the sexual advances. So it was just a lot of things that really stressed me out about the industry. Don't get me wrong, it was wonderful. I made $500,000 a year when I quit and walked away. I had a Range Rover, a corner office. I traveled around the world. I did all the award shows and everything, and I worked with some incredible artists. I wouldn't trade a thing. What I wish I had was better ways to cope. And which is why I think I'm here tonight to talk about healthier ways to cope in the entertainment industry and not turning to cocktails, when I had issues, right? When one cocktail would turn into two would turn into three, and I'm not the social police, but you shouldn't be drinking and engaging in those things, trying to mask your problems.
I wasn't intending to say this, but I kind of have to now.
It's okay.
In one of my classes today, I had a conversation with a group of students, and it gave me goosebumps. And in the middle of our conversation, And when we were talking about, you know, this sort of boys club of journalism, I had a personal revelation, and I realized that I started dressing differently because I was interviewing men often, and I changed my style completely. I started wearing baggier jeans, I stopped wearing dresses, etc., to protect myself. But I never actually dealt with the stress itself. I dealt with what I perceived to be the stress of work.
Yeah.
And I still had this sort of physiological, overflow of the stress.
And emotions, yeah.
To deal with, yeah. So how do you do that? How do you sort of turn inward and figure out how to sort of make sure you're keeping care of yourself and not just sort of putting up a wall?
Well, I didn't learn that for a while, and I will, just to talk about what you were saying in terms of the clothes, you know, that's a big debate now. I think a lot of women nowadays feel like you shouldn't necessarily have to cover up your femininity, right? And you shouldn't have to. For me, it was just the way I chose to deal with it. So I'm not telling anyone how to do things. You know, hopefully when you hear anyone come and lecture to you, you just pull nuggets, right, and gems from what they're saying and apply that to your life to see if it works. It worked for me because I got tired of the advances. I'm like, look, dude, I'm here to get my record played, not to go on a date, you know? So it just got to be too much for me. And so I chose to do that. In terms of trying to look inward and finding ways, that's why I think, you know, therapy is important, or counseling, or even just mindfulness practices. Like, it took me, I'm 51 years old. You know, I'm still learning how to care for myself from an emotional health and wellness perspective. I didn't know any of that early on. And at least nowadays, I think I applaud most of the major companies, especially in entertainment, you know, most of the record companies, television and film companies, big production houses, they offer now free therapy sessions. They have free memberships to really cool apps like Calm and Headspace for their employees. They have really good employee assistant programs. So all of that exists now. Again, it didn't really exist, you know, much when I was coming up in the entertainment industry. Like, I also now speak on the side, in addition to being the CEO and founder of Silence to Shame, excuse me, because I always have a love for entertainment, and I feel like it always comes full circle. So now I go back into these major companies and share my story around emotional health and wellness and best practices for their staff. So I've spoken like for EA Sports, Warner Media, Reebok, Louis Vuitton Moet Chandon, the NBA. I'm doing something for the NBA in 2 weeks for 500 of their employees. I work with the NFL Players Association. So it's really cool now to see how everyone is thinking about this topic and how important it is for sports and entertainment and the like, because they realize these industries put so much pressure on their staffs and employees. Like, I talked to a friend the other day. I was in Minneapolis a couple weeks ago, and I got to tour the Minnesota Timberwolves facility. And I talked to a guy, and he said, you know, my whole department, they're burnt out. They're stressed out. It's a lot. Things are heavy right now in the world. Every time you pick up your phone and read something, there's another mass shooting. You know, it's something traumatic going on. And now we have social media, so we're looking at these images, and we keep re-traumatizing ourselves. And that's on top of just the work that we do every day, right? Or the life that we lead as students. So life is heavy right now. But I also don't want you guys to lose sight of hope and lose sight of the fact that there are things that you can do to help yourself when you're stressed out, you know, for your finals, or if there's something going on within the house, but you still gotta focus as being a student and that sort of thing. So it really is about bringing resources to the table. And I'll be honest with y'all, like, I had this storied career in music, but and I'm not gonna get emotional, but I'm a Pisces. So being here tonight, I was embarrassed to come back and share at Newhouse because I almost took my own life in 2015. And I have friends in the audience. You know, my play nephew is here, Josh, and Peyton is here, a dear daughter of one of my best friends. And to be able to come back to a school that I love so much, to be so vulnerable and share like a really tough time in my life, and for the Newhouse to welcome me back to talk about this one particular topic, it really filled me up, and I'm honored to be here and share, and I hope that you guys pull from what I'm saying tonight to just know that if you're going through something, help is always there. That's the most important thing, is to know that we can get through this thing called life. You just gotta equip yourself with the right tools.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in addition to all the great work that you're doing, shame on you, the fact that you are yourself modeling what it looks like to be vulnerable and to be able to ask for help like to sort of, not be ashamed, right? It's not being ashamed.
Silence the shame.
Exactly, right, it doesn't mean it's not difficult, right? In fact,
Not at all.
It can be incredibly difficult, but that doesn't make it any, that doesn't make it not, an important thing to.
Right. And I also, a lot of us, are dealing with the loss of loved ones and parents. The pandemic was tough on everybody. 3 years ago, I lost my best friend, who was my sister, my big sister. She passed, she was on vacation with her daughter on spring break, and it was a blood clot. She passed like overnight in like 15, 20 minutes, and I just lost my mother to Alzheimer's in January. And so I feel like I'm still going through this grieving process, and there's this notion called the wounded healer, where like you're trying to help everybody else, but you're still going through everything. So I really have to honor myself every single day. And if people ask me how I'm doing, I don't just say, oh, I'm good, just for casual talk. If I'm having a bad day, I'm saying, you know what, it's not such a great day, but it's okay. I'm moving forward and I'm pushing through it. And I now am equipped with the tools. But the thing about it is I'm honest with myself and I'm honest with them. And I'm not saying you have to tell everybody your problems or what you're going through, but hopefully you have some people in your friend groups or your circles. If you're a part of an athletic team or a social club or sorority or fraternity, find you some people that you can confide in. I like to tell people or ask people, who's in your starting five, right? So we're in basketball season now. Can't, start a game. Each team has to have 5 players on the court. But who's in your starting five? Who do you call if things are tough?
Who's in your starting five?
So my starting five consists of a bonus sister that I have. Her name is Melanie. My cousin Sandra. And then I have 3 girlfriends that I've been friends with since the 6th grade. And we have a group text going on. And we really started it up in the pandemic. And, bless you, I was having a tough time with the holidays because this is the first holiday, Thanksgiving, without my mom. And I wasn't having a good day. And I called my girlfriend, and I was driving and I was in traffic, and she just let me cry. And she let me talk it out and talk it through. And yes, I'm a 50-year-old woman and I cry at the red light. It's okay. I'm not embarrassed about it. But the thing about it is, when you have these problems or you feel yourself experiencing things, it's important to not stay in the valley, but sometimes you gotta go through it to come out of it. And I'm also in therapy. I'm proud to say that, I'm finally consistently in therapy. I've been in therapy now for 14 months, consistently, with the same therapist. And therapy is work. People think oh, I'm gonna go to my therapist, you're just gonna fix all my problems and everything's gonna be good in 1 or 2 sessions. It's not the case. And sometimes therapy's like dating, you gotta keep swiping a couple times to find the right one. Like anything else, any other doctor or things, that you're looking for. If you go look to, you and your couple, your husband or partner go look for a house. If you don't like the first house, you're gonna keep looking. So it's the same thing applies with therapy, right? It shouldn't be something that's so taboo and embarrassing that you're gonna try it once and stop.
Yeah.
So you have to be committed. And you have to be willing to rap through your problems. So there's a little acronym I coined for RAP, R-A-P. So first you gotta recognize those unfamiliar feelings within yourself. And when you recognize them, the A is accepting them, right? You gotta accept that it actually happened, because sometimes we do things and we'll ignore it. How many times have we ignored something that has happened, right? Physical or mental. And then the P is being able to process through it with a professional or somebody that can help you, that knows more than you about the subject matter. I know that was a lot.
No, that was great.
Sometimes I go on these rants.
RIP, we have a pop quiz at the end, so you're paying attention. You bring up the fact that therapy and other potential solutions are not easy, they're not quick or fun. And it seems like in our culture these days, there's a shorthand for responding to social, or to mental health issues that is, well, make a gratitude journal.
Do what?
Make a gratitude journal.
Oh.
Find a therapist. Do some yoga. And a lot of those things are absolutely important. But they don't make your problems go away
Right.
overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sort of encouraged to want them to in some ways.
And they're almost like thrown out there so quickly and easy that it's almost becoming cliche now, right? And I think we're becoming desensitized in a way to some of it. And it looks different for everybody, right? So we have a family member that has a severe mental illness, right? So we all have mental health. We may not all have a mental illness.
And that's an important distinction too, right? Mental health.
Because people say, oh, mental health, they're like, I got that word. No, we all have have mental health, it's how you wake up every day, right? And you have your wits about yourself to be able to get up and get dressed and go to work and go to class and finish those exams and, you know, be the best you can be in the Newhouse School, you know? So we all have that, but what happens is our emotions change, right? As we go through experiences in life, and there are different stressors and things that happen, and sometimes it may be situational in the family, or things happen, or it could be, you know, a very stressful situation in school, and we let those problems like feed and build and grow like algae, and we never really get to the root of those problems. That's what happens. But you gotta stop and take time to deal with it like anything else. And like I said, therapy is not gonna change you overnight. You really do have to take time. You have to be intentional. I want everybody to write this word down, intentionality. You have to be really intentional, just like you are with your classes and your majors and those internships you're looking for and those big jobs and all these major corporations that you want. You gotta be intentional about your emotional health and wellness. Like, look guys, I told you, I walked away at the height of my career. I'd be lying if I said sometimes, you know, would I look back and say, wow, where would I be? Would I be president of this company or general manager of this label or working at Spotify or Google, running things with all my other friends, you know, but, you know, I feel like, you know, my destiny was already written out and my purpose, because I'm just a spiritual person, but I don't impose my spirituality on anyone. But, you know, I do think looking back that I could have done a better job had I been educated around how to take care of myself and how to really listen to my body. Sometimes I think we get afraid to sit in silence. We're afraid of that. I think that's why so many people had struggled during the pandemic, because some people, you know, now we will say the pandemic was different. Some folks, you know, were at home, palatial estates and mansions, and not saying that made it any different, but it made it a little bit easier if you had 4 rooms. Some people had 1 room, right? With 3 people in that 1 room. So it got really tough for people to have to sit in their feelings, but no one really wanted to deal with the root of the problem, I think. And that's why we're seeing, you know, suicide rates increase and that sort of thing. So we're still coming out of that. But again, the important thing is just knowing that it takes work. Like anything else, you have to be intentional about how you start your day. You have to be intentional about the company that you keep too. Because, you know, some of my friends, you know, they laughed it off when I said I was depressed and some of the things that I was going through. And they were like, oh, you're Shanti died. What do you have to be depressed about? You're this and you're that. And I'm like, gee, thanks, you know? And that made me even more sad and depressed. So that's why I was saying that starting 5 and the company that you keep, you know, you have to be really intentional about the people you keep around you. It's important.
Right, right. One thing that I think is unfortunately very common, and I see it so much among young people and students in particular, is this idea, even if it's not conscious, that our self-worth is our productivity. And that is, it's so damaging.
Like I'm the man if I work harder, right? Or if I work 24 hours a day. Yeah, that's not the case.
How do you decouple that sense of wanting to be ambitious and to produce good work?
I mean, we all want to be successful, right? And we all want to produce good work. But what I can tell you, when you start hitting 40 and waking up every day, you're like, ooh, what's that? Or what's this? Your body. I know the older people in the room are laughing, but I'm telling y'all, enjoy your, you know, your teens and your 20s and your 30s, because when you hit 40, life shifts, right? So life is going to slow you down whether you realize it or not. And what I can just say is the most important thing, you know, we talk a lot, like in culture, about getting the bag, meaning the money, right? Having that big salary and that big check. Really, the bag is your health. And I am trying to eat healthier now. Yes, I do have more weight to lose. I was sick last year. I had to get my gallbladder removed. I lost a lot of weight, and I picked some of my weight back up because sometimes I tend to eat from my depression. But I am making a conscious effort to do better. When you know better, you do better, right? So just really understanding, like, yeah, you know, those are things that you don't necessarily have to worry about right now, but it's going to catch up with you. But I think if we start including that in the conversation and weaving it into everyday vernacular, that people will get it. The problem is, and I don't blame social media, I love social media. I think it's super important, but I also think that it is doing a disservice to some of our younger generations for this idea of perfectionism, first and foremost. Nobody's perfect, period. I don't care who you are. And I can tell you there are like a gazillion apps out there and filters for these photos. So when people taking these selfies, they don't look like that. They change everything. And I just don't like how we're like getting into our mental psyche thinking we have to be perfect and we have to produce and we have to be on and oh my God, this person is taking this trip or they're on vacation or they're on that yacht. I gotta work 10 times as hard. Like, slow up. Stop comparing yourself to everybody. You gotta figure out your lane and your path. And once we can realize that and really be comfortable in our own skin and be able to, figure out what works for us, that's when I think we'll start seeing a shift in the culture. But people have to start speaking up. That's why the work that I do at Silence Shame is important, because it's important for people like myself and other people, right, with lived experiences, just to share so we can normalize these conversations. I don't want to normalize perfectionism. That's not a thing, and it shouldn't be a thing. And it's not fair for somebody, to have to live up to that sort of, daily expectation of themselves. We're putting unrealistic expectations and goals on ourselves. And it's making people sick. It's making people bulimic. It's making people turn to recreational drugs and overdoses. It's causing suicidal ideation. It is too much. And I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard and strive hard and want to be the absolute best. Yes, absolutely. But you gotta give yourself some grace. You might have heard that word grace. If you don't know what it is, Google it. It is important. It means giving yourself a break, right? Giving yourself the permission to pour back into yourself so that you can be your best self. What I tell you, if you're on the airplane and something goes wrong, you gotta put the oxygen mask on yourself first, and then you gotta help everybody, then you can help everybody else. But oftentimes, we feel like, we just have to go. There's a notion of, in the African American community, how, Black women wear this cape, right? And I think women in general, I think it is, and men too, right? If you're the patriarch of the family and you're raising the kids on your own, we have this superpower cape, like Superman. Sometimes you gotta take that cape off and throw it around you like a blanket, right? You gotta sit down and curl up and watch a good show on Netflix, or I like a good Lifetime movie every now and then because I want to look at somebody else's problems. But whatever it is, you gotta repurpose that cape. And then there are times where you are, feeling great and you can take on the world and you can take 10 meetings a day and you put that cape and wear it on your head like a crown. And then sometimes you gotta throw that cape on the ground, do some yoga, do some exercise, but it's all about lifestyle. And there's no such thing, I think, in terms of work-life balance. Because life, every day something happens is different. Every day, you're gonna feel like life is throwing you some sort of curveball. Even if you go into the new shine, and I'm jealous and I'm mad that y'all got that big old TV monitor and y'all got Dunkin' Donuts and all of that. But you go in there and you want your favorite latte and they're out of it, right? Or something happens at home. It's something that's gonna stress you out, right? But you gotta go through life in terms of knowing that it's a rhythm. It's not work-life balance, it's work-life rhythm. So if you can learn how to deal with the ebbs and flows and not let the little things in life stress you out, it won't lead to the depression and anxiety and different things. Because I think even little stressors can go on to lead to certain things in life, even if it's not a more severe, mental illness or severe aspect of anxiety or depression. We just gotta learn how to cope. Just have healthy ways to cope.
Yeah. You walk around and you notice after a while that you've just been pulling out your tense, right? Your shoulders right.
Or it's like if somebody comes in the room and says something dumb, you just snap at them. You're like, wait a minute. And usually it has nothing to do with you. It's because they're stressed out, but they don't know how to deal with that stress, right? And take care of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Am I resonating with anybody? Does that make sense? Okay. Just make sure y'all listen. Okay.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. All right.
In some of the work that you do with Silence Shame, in addition to sort of speaking with employees of some of the corporations you mentioned, I would you say somewhere else that you also do work with colleges and universities. And I'm curious to know from your perspective, a lot has changed obviously, but I'm curious to know from your perspective, what are we getting right on college campuses and what are we getting wrong?
Well, so when I go, I haven't done like any programming per se, but typically I'll go and share my story like I'm doing today. I will say that more and more colleges, in terms of getting it right, are bringing people into the fold so that they can normalize the conversation on campuses. I can't speak in regards to Syracuse University directly, but I do think some of the colleges where they're getting it wrong is the resources don't meet the needs. of the students from a mental health perspective. There are not enough counselors. There are not enough peer-led groups, because I know I'm the auntie. Y'all ain't trying to tell me your problems. I get that. And you don't want to necessarily often talk to people, that aren't your peers. So I would encourage the counseling departments to really develop more peer-led support groups, right? And there's a training, that the students can go through for that sort of thing, but it needs to be more peer support, because I think, look, listen, when I was younger, I didn't tell my mom and my sister everything. I felt more comfortable telling my friends. And it's cool to talk to your friends sometimes, but your friends sometimes don't know what to tell you either. It's okay to let, for them to let you vent and get it out, but you also need someone to talk to who maybe has been through it, right? Or have experienced similar things and have actually gotten help from it. That's why I think, trained peer-led support groups, is really important. And when I talk to other students, there's a group, is it CAPS, C-A-P-S? I think those are like the counseling programs in a lot of the larger universities.
I'm wondering if anyone's familiar with that. I've never heard of CAPS.
So you can Google it, CAPS, but most of the larger universities have the CAPS program, but a lot of the students get discouraged when they go and visit it, and they don't feel like, even especially from a diversity perspective, that there are enough counselors, to go around and to serve all the students in the unique population groups.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think everything comes back to diversity in a way.
And even being able to just do more incorporate more wellness activities, into the day. I don't know what happens during finals and that sort of thing, but I have seen some campuses that bring like pets on campus for pet therapy, so I think that's really cool. So it's been some cool things that I think have happened in the last probably 5 years on a lot of campuses, but I do think we still have a long way to go.
There are puppies at the barn center once a week.
Oh, nice.
If you've not met them, go and hang out with them. Come to my office and go back.
They are a really great form of wellness.
They absolutely, that's mental health decision I made my entire life is getting a dog.
Yeah.
He's changed my life, and I'm one of those dog people now because of that.
Absolutely.
But you do what works for you.
That's right. And that's important. I'm glad you said that. Wellness looks different for everybody. Because what works for Patrick may not work for you, right? What works for Peyton may not work for this other young lady over here. So you really do have to figure out what makes you tick. I tell people too, it's all about putting yourself in a good mental health space, right? In a happy place. It's like finding your road back to happy sometimes is what I like to say. So what did you like to do as a kid? Find that inner kid. I love peanuts. So I'm watching, and I love just the holiday traditional. I don't watch Rudolph, Frosty. Yes, I'm 51, but I enjoy all that. It puts me in a good mood. So sometimes it's cool to find your inner child and do that. And at 21, you can still go back and do what you used to do as a kid. It just puts you in a good mood. But you gotta be consistent with that, right? Don't wait till Saturday and Sunday for hashtag self-care Saturday or hashtag self-care Sunday. Wellness is a lifestyle, right? From a physical and an emotional health and wellness perspective. So you gotta be able to implement that into your daily regimen. And I know as students, y'all are so busy and your schedules are so hectic, but utilize your calendar like anything else. So go outside and take a walk, or do something, go to the gym. You have so many resources on campus that you can do and get engaged in, you just gotta really do it.
And you also pay for it, right? You're paying for all of it at the Barn Center. The rock line wall, it's yours. The video gaming, YouTube.
And I'll say, don't knock something until you try it too, because you go oh, that's corny, I don't like that. Have you ever tried it? Maybe, you actually might enjoy it.
I think with some of our students, achievers and high performers, there's a lot of pressure that is self-directed.
It is. Again, that goes back to perfectionism.
Yeah. So in the work that you do with Silence and Shame, but also the work that you did for such a long time, and so successfully in the music industry, a lot of it had to do with figuring out how to tell a story, right? How to reach a mass audience, whether, in the context of the music industry, it was get everyone with Donald Jones, or if it was, or in Silence and Shame, getting people to sort of understand where they've been to the importance of challenging mental health treatment. Why does that sort of approach, or where do those two things intersect for you in terms of approaching the art of communicating?
That's a good question. Make sure I'm understanding it correctly. So, me marketing the artists and then being able to do the outreach to those same people, you think? Or
No, I mean, just sort of more broadly than that. So a lot of your work, even though it's very different, has required you to figure out how to tell something to a general public. How to reach people.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I like to tell people I'm a introverted extrovert. So I do like to spend time with myself, but I am a people person. I do think one of my superpowers is my vulnerability and my passion, right? So my passion allowed me to fiercely market those artists and get to the masses. And, I'm gonna be, so hip hop turns, how many people listen to hip hop? Or have heard of him? Oh, hip hop turns 50 next year.
Yeah.
We're kissing cousins. I'm 51, hip hop turns 50. So, I lost my train of thought that quick. Oh, no, so I remember, going out, distributing materials and getting everyone to listen to our artists and music, and I just loved it. I'm gonna be included on this documentary that Showtime is doing for women in hip hop. And so that's all passion driven, right? And passion led. But when I got into this work, because it was heavier, it was a heavier subject, and even though it's full circle and I'm going back into some of those same spaces, it was my vulnerability that allowed me to be able to do this. And it's hard, y'all, to sit up in front of strangers and tell them, yes, my name is Shanti Das, and I contemplate taking my own life.
Yeah.
Terrifying, embarrassing, but empowering at the same time. And so if I can help save one life or 1,000 lives, that's it for me. And I remember when I was working in the entertainment industry, when I was your age, and cause I talk to students all the time about networking and going up to people and doing panels. And I remember I got asked to be on my first panel when I was in the entertainment industry. I mumbled words, I was nervous, my palms were sweaty, I didn't know what to say. Now, if it's 5 people or 1,000, I gave a keynote 2 weeks ago for the International Trauma Society. It was the largest trauma conference in the world. I'm just sitting here talking to you and just being vulnerable and just being little Southern Shanti, and I love it now. But it was me really accepting the fact that I was gonna have to talk about some deep, dark moments of my past and being comfortable with it and being okay with being vulnerable. This is not for everybody, but this was a path that I was comfortable with. But I also feel like my vulnerability allows me to draw people in so that they know, okay, I've been through that too. It's actually okay to talk about it. If she's okay, maybe, I can be okay too. Maybe I can try out therapy. Maybe I should incorporate this into my life. So it was passion and vulnerability, and now they both intersect. And so I'm super passionate now about the work that I do with mental health, but I'm also super passionate about still being able to, it's so cool, y'all. Now I get to go to the Grammys and do stuff around mental health and talk to people at Reebok and, can I say this now? Can I make the announcement? So, okay, it's cool. I'm so excited, y'all. Such a full circle moment. I'm so into vibrations and energy. So, I'm getting a tour earlier in the Dick Clark Studios, and I see the Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve sign there, and then I see what? A picture of Shanti Das lecturing, juxtaposed side by side with the Dick Clark Studio sign. So on December 31st, Silas Shashane has been chosen to be a part of Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, so I'm going to be interviewed live in Times Square by Ryan Seacrest. It's going to be quick, so don't blink. It's 30 seconds. But it's still a really big deal for us in a full circle moment that Mr. Clark went here and I went here, and they're highlighting mental health. It's Shanti Das from the music industry, but they're highlighting the most vulnerable pieces of me. And I'm okay with that because it's a bigger purpose. It's a bigger play. So it's such an honor to just be able to work with Dick Clark Productions, and I've been on conference calls and all that good stuff, but it's purpose and vulnerability that has gotten me where I am right now.
Yeah, and you can't manufacture that. You can't manufacture that. You can just channel it.
So I'm grateful, and that's why and I give out my email addresses. I take on mentees. I might mentor someone for a couple months. It could be a couple years, but if I know people, I generally try to help people. I still have most of my friends are still at all these big companies, and I'm always trying to help people. And I feel like the more I can help people, the more it just makes me feel better about being in this tough space of the wounded healer and trying to give back. But I love to help students be their best selves, whether it's academically, you know, or through taking care of their emotional health and wellness. But you can't be good academically if you're not taking care of your mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I just started this semester by reminding students that mental health and wellness is the number one predictor of success.
Number one, what?
Predictor of academic success. So this is like research shows.
100%.
Yeah. So we're grateful for you here. I'm gonna ask you one more question and then we will turn it over to the students who I'm sure have time for you.
Okay.
I'm curious to know, in the transition that you've made from the music industry to your work as a mental health advocate, now, you know, so sounds a shame, you have a staff of, you know, a handful of people. How have you changed as a manager or as a boss?
That's a great question. So we went from just a couple of volunteers, now we have 7 full-time employees, so not bad for a small organization, and we're growing and getting grants more and more every day. I am definitely more empathetic to people's needs. You know, we are a small team and we expect everyone to work really hard, but if one of my team members calls and says, bless you, that, you know, their sibling is in crisis and they need to take them to the doctor, I'll let them go during work hours, you know, as long as they're available and on their phone and they're not missing their assignment. The old Shanti would be like, no, you know, Shanti from the music industry. I don't think I was as compassionate as I used to be, but now that I understand and I've gone through it myself, and I have worked in the most fast-paced industry, right, to now working in the nonprofit community, which, you know, is a lot as well too. The bigger nonprofits that you work for can be really stressful as well too. Any environment, you know, a high-paced industry can be tough, but I am definitely more empathetic. I don't try to lead from a place of sympathy because I don't want anyone feeling sorry for me. I just want you to kind of understand what I'm going through and try to just put yourself in my shoes, right? So I try to lead from a place of empathy and compassion and not sympathy. Now, I'm not gonna let anybody run over me, right, and not do their job, but I do know that life happens. And so with us being such a small team and us not necessarily having an HR department, I try to make sure that I'm up to speed and I work closely with my executive director, making sure that we incorporate mental health days. We encourage our staff to actually take their vacations, right?
Imagine that.
I encourage my assistant to not call me after 5 o'clock. I don't want her to call me after 5 o'clock. You know, but I just try to be more thoughtful around that sort of thing because, you know, it's easy working for a small company to return emails 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Because sometimes, you know, if you have kids or you have homework and you finally settling down for the day, that's when you have time to do stuff like that. But you gotta do yourself a favor, turn some of that off sometimes. You know, it's about totally releasing and unwinding, you know? I'm a shower person. I prefer to take showers, but I took a bath for the last couple of weeks and it was the most relaxing thing. I turned on some music and just chilled out. I haven't relaxed like that in ages. So it's like, you gotta allow people to understand that they have to pour back into themselves. So I really try to push people towards wellness on my staff and my team and encourage that. But I wasn't always like that. I had to learn how to be that sort of boss. And even when my executive director came, you know, she was like, okay, make sure, I know you're passionate about this event, but make sure, you know, you're not, calling at any time of day or night. And I even, you know, and I take direction where I sit and I listen, right? I don't want to be that type of boss also that I can't take direction from people underneath me. So being able to understand when staff members implement boundaries, that I respect those boundaries as well. So we talked about intentionality. The other word I want y'all to take away is boundaries. Being able to establish professional and personal boundaries are really important. Sometimes our best friends don't understand our boundaries. That's important too. And as faculty and staff members and students, you gotta be able to establish boundaries. It's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. That do not disturb functional life along my best friend.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sure we've got some excellent questions, so we'll turn it over to also Samantha today.
Thank y'all. Everybody is leaving. I appreciate you.
Hello,
Hi.
my My name is Aiden Levin. I'm in the band year program here at Newhouse. So
Amazing. Nice
I'm
to
also
meet you.
very interested in the music industry. And I just wanted to ask you about this last topic. Do you feel being a boss as an empathetic person is more productive or efficient rather than being sort of like, I'm not sure how to word this, but go.
Like a tough a-hole, if you will. So there's a fine line there, right? Especially in the entertainment industry, because I remember being told when I was a young woman that you need to be more of a bee, right? You need to be tougher. And so when you're in these high-paced industries, there is a balance there. So like if I was someone working at a record company, right, or at a larger company with more employees, I would lean more on our HR department, right? But I will also still be that type of boss that I felt like my employees could come to when something was wrong. It's nothing wrong with holding people accountable, right, and holding their feet to the fire for them to really work hard and to implement, right, and execute a certain standard of excellence, because I always did that and I even do that now. But I also understand that people can be burnt out in these industries, and I'm seeing my peers and other people that work in these businesses get burned out every single day. So there's a fine line there. So we actually have established at Silence to Shame these workplace wellness trainings on how to train managers and leaders to really better deal with their staff members, right? Because it is a balance there, well, a rhythm, if you will, because I don't believe in a balance, but I think you have to, hold your staff accountable, right? But you also still have to understand that people are going through it and give them the space that they need. Maybe you might say to an employee who you feel like they're not executing and you can tell something is wrong, like, you need to take a week off and you don't take no for an answer, right? So you can come back and hit the ground running. Sometimes we need to stop and reset, right? And it may not be that we're having a breakdown or we're having more serious, issues around emotional health and wellness, but we may just be tired and need a break. So I've seen people in music and sports and entertainment. It's no different than Simone Biles, right? She was on the biggest stage at the Olympics and she was like, I can't compete. She was worn out and exhausted. So you gotta be able to give people a chance to reset while still holding them accountable. And I see more bosses in these high power positions having to step back a little bit. And I do even work with like people in the financial industry and major law firms, and that's really cutthroat in a lot of these major law firms. But I'm seeing the burnout happen in those spaces as well. So I'll say this much, if you don't encourage your employees, or if you're not that type of boss, you don't want to have something bad happen, right? So if you see something in one of your employees, you gotta respect them and give them the space that they need.
Thank you very much. I was also wondering if you're available afterward to have maybe a 5-minute conversation.
I am, and anybody, I have a special love for the Bandio program because David Rezick and his dear wife Linda are good friends, and I highly support everything. But anybody in Newhouse, I'll stay and talk to y'all afterwards.
Sounds amazing. Thank you very much.
Yep. Hey.
So I think something that we're taught a lot about mental health is 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
One is that you're not alone with anxiety. You hear that all the time.
Yep.
Also, something you hear a lot is that, in order to improve, in order to be the best of yourself, it's not this, it's really like a sine wave, like this. I think sometimes that message is echoed too much and in a particular way that sometimes it gets lost in everything. And what do you think the best way to kind of bring those 2 messages actually lie? Because everyone says you're not alone, but like sometimes you can't really feel that when someone's saying it to you.
So when you say like this, you mean?
I mean, you got your ups and downs.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Instead of just being like, all right, on this, now on this, now on this, like you go from here, this is great, to, a lower one, and then you go up and down, up and down.
Oh, it is a rhythm. Are you saying, though, I just want to understand that second part, are you saying people are encouraging you to deal with that rhythm, or they're saying you should just be only going up, up, and up?
I'm saying that we're emphasized that, life ebbs and flows, but I think sometimes we don't really understand what people are saying. We don't truly conceptualize the message that we're being told.
Oh, 100%, I agree. I think that's why people sharing their lived experiences are so important, right? Because at a certain point, we get tired of being like told what to do, right? We see these same messages, to your point, right? And we're getting these images and messages and wording till we're like blue in the face. But that's why it's important, like people like me, to say, hey, look, Some days are good, some days are bad, right? You definitely wanna go up, up, and up. But there's a balance, I mean, there's a rhythm to it, and life is not like that. So you have to really be able to have these honest and authentic conversations. That's why I was saying peer groups are so important, right? Because the messaging sometimes that we get in the media, or the people that, are giving out all this self-care information, and every brand is trying to take, to capitalize off that, it gets to be too much. But you gotta have more of these really open dialogues and open spaces, so people can say, I don't know, excuse my language, but it's like full of shit. Some of the stuff that they're selling us, like that's not how life works, that's not how it operates. Life is about ebbs and flows and ups and downs, and we do wanna really try to focus on being our best selves, but it's hard, and it's tough. But you don't get those type of messages unless you hear from more people being really honest and authentic, right? And that's why it's so important for people in these industries to speak out and to share more and say, this is what I went through, and it could be the person that you would least expect that has gone through something. And again, I'm not saying you gotta post on social media and share to everybody, but you gotta be honest with each other and share and help support one another. So it doesn't become, so surface, right? And we feel like, oh, this is just something somebody's telling me, but it's nothing I can relate to. We need more people that are relatable and are open to sharing. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
It also doesn't mean, knowing that you're gonna ebb and flow, it doesn't mean it doesn't feel really awful when you're at that bottom point, really. It's still gonna feel really shitty,
Absolutely.
but knowing that there's an upcoming is, that helps.
Okay, we'll go to her and then we'll come back.
Can you hear me all right?
Uh-huh. But she's gonna bring you the mic though, just in case. Thanks. Hi.
So, hi, Auntie Shanti. I wanted to first thank you for such a meaningful conversation that you're bringing to everybody. And thank you for providing that representation personally for me, just as somebody, as a first year PhD student moving from Atlanta to come here to Syracuse. I'm also a Pisces.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that they were saying was reaching out to me, and I just wanted to thank you for that. As a PhD student who is doing research with how to best communicate, how to best destigmatize mental health in some of these minority communities using media and communication, I was wondering, with your experience in the entertainment industry, if you see a future where artists and talent within these industries, they begin to prioritize their own mental health, and they start bringing in organizations like you to not only speak to the staff, but also to that talent, understanding that the talent has that influence over some of these communities that may have the stigmatization surrounding mental health. I know that, like I said, the stuff that I look at is how just influential a lot of opinion leaders within some of these communities are, and a lot of these influencers actually fall within the entertainment industry. And so I know sometimes business can kind of overpower the mental health of people. So, like I said, in your professional experience, do you see a future where maybe the shift will kind of change and there will be prioritizing more towards mental health of the talent to hopefully have that domino effect to the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I already see a shift, I think every year we see that shift change. That's really how Silence to Shame, started getting a lot of our notoriety. Thank you all for coming, those that have to leave. So in 2017, I decided to just make up a day because I was trying to figure out ways that we could get the Silence to Shame message out there, right, and the hashtag. And I said, I'm just gonna create a day. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm gonna make May 5th National Silence to Shame Day. And yeah, I know it's Cinco de Mayo or whatever. Before you take a shot, let's talk about mental health, right? So we created a little graphic for social media. And I thought a few people would post, and I started asking some of the artists that I work with, like Usher and Outkast and some of the folks on Real Housewives of Atlanta, some of those nice ladies decided to post. We got 90 million impressions in one day. And I thought, 90 million impressions? We had everyday people, artists, celebrities, athletes, and I see every day, whether it's specific to the entertainment industry, I work with G Herbo. During the pandemic, I started interviewing a lot of celebrities like Common and Swiss Beats and, oh my gosh, Chuck D and Tisha Campbell, actors and actresses and athletes, and they were opening up and sharing. And so I do see a shift in the conversation with influencers in, television, film, the sports community. But I still think it's a ways to go. I think people are opening up and talking, and even I think just with everybody else right now, we're getting more exposure around mental health, but I don't know that people are taking the steps to actually do the work. I think we're talking about it, but I don't think some of us are getting the help yet. So that's the shift that I'd like to see more of, even with the athletes and entertainers opening up and sharing, but they're actually trying to help push their peers towards actually getting help. Because one thing to share their own story, and that helps to normalize it, but it's still a lot I think that can be done. I mean, you see folks like Lady Gaga doing a great job, Michael Phelps, who hopefully is gonna be on our podcast. We're in talks with his people now to get him to come on. But we do need more people in those high profile positions, because like it or not, we look up to those folks, right? For whatever reasons, right or wrong. But I do think that the shift is happening, but I think we still have a long way to go. I'm happy to talk to you afterwards or give you my information. We can stay in touch. We've interviewed a lot of people in that space, but we do see more and more people opening up to talk about it, because people are hurting. And I think folks in the music community, what I want to see, because there's mental health, right? But then there's also substance abuse and behavioral health. And what I don't want to see is another drug overdose of an actor or a musician or an athlete. And so substance abuse and mental health goes hand in hand, but it is two very different, right, pillars, and different organizations and resources around those particular things. So I think more has to happen where we stop turning towards substances to mask our problems, which will ultimately lead to mental health issues, right? It definitely goes hand in hand. But I don't think we've done a big enough job around substance issues, substance abuse, right? Because in a lot of those social circles, again, I'm not the social police, but drugs and alcohol still run rampant, right? And a lot of people just masking their problems, and we're not talking enough about that.
Well, thank you so much, and I would love to take you up on, exchanging information.
Absolutely, thank you. I think this gentleman with the sweatshirt, gray sweatshirt.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Steven. I'm a first year television, radio, and film student.
Steven, Tiara.
So my question is, in a world, in an industry that is so future focused, career oriented, you always have to be thinking about, tomorrow, years ahead, the future. How do you, in the moment, to day, maximize your future without compromising yourself in the present? There's so much pressure to be thinking about what's ahead, but I feel like oftentimes it's really easy to get caught up in that and forget what you're doing in the moment. So how have you been able to kind of, balance that?
So again, I think, we talked a little bit about it earlier. These high profile positions, you don't want to take too many days off and too many mental health days because you feel like your manager is going to use it against you, or that person who is lurking in the other department and maybe want to take your position, might use that as a weakness. It can be tough, but what I'll tell you is, again, if you don't take time, if you feel like you're suffering or you're running yourself in the ground and you're burning out, your body's gonna do it for you. And I'd rather try to incorporate it into my own daily regimen, and I had to learn that. So what I did tell y'all is, when I also walked away at the height of my career, I was riding in New York City, uptown, in a taxi to go to a meeting, and my entire right side went numb. No lie. I couldn't feel my hands, I couldn't feel my right arm, my right leg. And so I got diagnosed with what was called cervical spinal stenosis, and it was a direct result of stress. And I was working and working and working. Nobody around me was telling Shanti to slow down, because I was always thinking about, next quarter and next year and this artist and that project, but I was not focusing on me whatsoever. It's funny, I went to New York City last year, and I ended up booking the car service. Normally I'll take a taxi, but I booked the car service. This guy used to drive me when I was an executive at Universal, and he said to me, and I told him what I was doing now and what I had gone through. He said, I didn't know how you were gonna keep going at that pace. Wow. He said, I would pick you up from an event. This was when I was at Universal Motown. I would pick you up from an event, at 8 o'clock, you go to a dinner, I drop you off at 1 in the morning, and one of my other drivers was coming at 5 a.m. to take you back to the airport. And I did this constantly. To when my body said, girl, it's a wrap. I couldn't feel I was scared as heck. I had to take all these MRIs and different tests. And that's when I realized it was all a direct result of stress. I was not taking time for me. I tell you, I was at the height of my game. Corner office, Range Rover, $500K a year. And I'm not saying that you can't be great and attain all of that, but something's gonna have to give at some point. You just can't go at that pace. And a lot of these people that you see who are at the top of their games or entrepreneurs and they're making all this money, you don't see all the stuff that they're going through either. They're just not showing it and they're masking it. I masked a lot of my problems and hid them well. A lot of my peers, when I went through my suicidal ideation and almost took my own life, I shared my story at a dinner in Atlanta with a lot of my peers in music. And they said to me, like, I'd have never thought that you would have thought about taking your own life. I didn't even know you were depressed because I hid it. I wasn't telling anybody, and I was going and I was going and I was going. But finally, I couldn't go anymore. And it caught up with me. And we've heard that term before, that life catches up with you. It caught up with me. So I just encourage you all as you are on your quest to being great, and I want you to be great, and I want you to make all the money you want and travel and see the world and attain all these high positions, but take care of yourself. Take care of your mind, take care of your body, because otherwise it'll come back and take care of it in another way, or you know what I'm saying, or you will be forced to have to deal with it. And I don't want us to have to be forced to deal with our wellness.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's a good note to wrap up on.
All right.
Enjoy your life.
So if anybody wants to follow Silence the Shame, it's at Silence the Shame on Instagram. You can follow me at Shanti Das 404. Also, my organization is looking for campus ambassadors for mental health to work with us. It is an application process. It doesn't entail a lot. Eventually, we want to have Silence the Shame campus chapters at the different schools, but we are looking for ambassadors. So if anyone is passionate about mental health and wellness, and we will be working alongside the counseling center. It's not going to be done in isolation of the counseling centers, because we don't believe in that. We want to be a part of the solution and not the problem. But if you're interested, let us know, and I'll be down here to answer any other questions. Also, my email is S for Shanti, D for Das, at silencetheshame.com. I might not be able to help you get a job, but I can certainly try. I'm looking for internships. I got friends at most of the major companies. Don't email me unless you're serious. If you're serious about your job and about your wellness, because I want you to take care of yourself. But if you are looking for internships, that's how I got to where I am today, by networking and by interning and by getting involved. When I was at Newhouse, like I mentioned, I was in TRF, but I worked as the 89. I was assistant promotions director. I did a lot. So get engaged and take care of yourselves. Auntie Shanti loves you.